or what I thought was the same spot. When I looked out the window, I was totally taken aback. The stark change, the dramatic change in the cityscape, the state of development was amazing. And for a moment at a point in time in 2015, I actually thought that I was in the wrong country. It was only after I began to move around, to speak to the people, to understand, to read more reports about the country, then I realized that Cambodia was really booming and growing at such a rapid pace.
Like a special milestone.
I did make several trips to Cambodia before my official assumption of post, but unfortunately those were very short work trips. Those work trips did not give me a good sense of what the country and the people were like, because for those work trips it was always very rushed. We arrived at the airport, we are shuttled to the hotel, from the hotel you proceed to the conference meeting venues, and we're always busy with your work stuff. We didn't have a chance on those trips that I made to really go around to appreciate what the country and the culture had to offer. So those were not very good visits to have an impression of the country. And I remember when I looked out from the window of that hotel, all I saw was a very flat piece of land. That was Diamond Island, where the ASEAN Chairmanship Convention Center was built. There were only a few tall buildings. That was in 2012. That was the only recollection I had from that visit. But in December 2015, when I came back for the recce visit, when I stood at the same spot, or what I thought was the same spot, when I looked out the window, I was totally taken aback. The stark change, the dramatic change in the cityscape, the state of development was amazing. It took my breath away. And for a moment at a point in time in 2015, I actually thought that I was in the wrong country. You know, it was only after I began to move around, to speak to the people, to understand, to read more reports about the country, then I realized that Cambodia was really booming and growing at such a rapid pace. I've been in the Foreign Service for more than 2 decades now. This is my 4th country of posting and my first ambassadorship. Into the 2nd year of my service, I was posted out very early, ahead of my cohort. And since then, I served 13 consecutive years in 3 countries before this ambassadorship. I first served in Yangon, Myanmar, followed by Seoul, South Korea, and Tokyo, Japan. Thereafter, I was back in Singapore for about 7 years before the current assignment. I was a government scholar. I was on a government scholarship, and on completion of my university studies, I'm obligated to serve out the government bond in the civil service. So I was given a few choices, and one of my seniors in the university who had already joined the Foreign Service encouraged me to give the Singapore Foreign Service a try. And that's precisely what I did. But I think the real question is not why I joined the diplomatic service. We must also recall, or we must be realistic, that at that point in time, we are all very young and impressionable. I think for those who took up the first job, they were probably in the age range of between 20 to 25. In Singapore's case, probably slightly older on average because of the obligation to serve a 2-year national service. So in my case at that point in time, it was just the first job. So I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. So the real crux of the question is, why did I stay on in the diplomatic service? And I think the reason for that is that for each posting that I've been to, each assignment that I've been given, I've always had the sense of accomplishment, the joy in the autonomy, in being able to make a difference in the assignment. And that's why I've stayed on in the diplomatic service. So coming to Cambodia, I found that there was no culture shock whatsoever. It was very easy for us to adapt to. It was not difficult at all to get around, even though I don't really speak Khmer, unfortunately. Getting your basic groceries, your basic essentials and necessities are not difficult at all. It's easily available here. In fact, my family and I, we've enjoyed our posting here from day one until today. In fact, I think we are at a state whereby just prior to our departure, there's this sense of longing for the country that we have stayed in for the past few years. When I look back on the 4.5 years of my posting, I'm extremely pleased and glad that our bilateral account has already hit a high between the years of 2018 to 2019. Whether it's in terms of two-way tourist traffic, bilateral trade, FDI, capacity building, or people-to-people exchanges. In fact, I was hoping to hit another high, another exciting year in 2020, if not for COVID-19. But what we started off 2020 with was a commemorative street art festival. And the reason why I did that is my firm belief that the state of our bilateral relations can only be as strong as the bonds of friendship between our two peoples, which we coined it as the Street Art Fest Plus Plus. It was held from the 15th to the 29th of February, where we had a 2-week-long celebration of art, culture, street food, music, dance, performances. The objective was mainly to help promote a better understanding of the similarities as well as the differences between the cultures, the lifestyle, the practices of the two peoples, but also use it as a bridge for the larger community. Another objective of this festival was for us to raise funds to give back to the host community. We encouraged Cambodian and Singaporean businesses to contribute to the event, to also purchase the murals that were created, so that the proceeds raised can be contributed to 2 beneficiary organizations. And we managed to raise $70,000, and they were contributed to the Cambodian Children's Fund and the Cambodian Living Arts. And in August, we kicked off with an unveiling of the mural by one of the buyers in the Kandao, which was followed by a bilateral reception and unveiling of our bilateral mural just outside the embassy by DPM Praksakon on the 8th of September. So in all, up to date, we have unveiled 6 murals out of 11. We have had 5 unveiling events. So I have 5 more murals to go and 4 more unveiling events. So it's quite a busy calendar for the rest of the year. So that is the main key event that we have organized to celebrate the 55 years of diplomatic relations. Thankfully, we were able to have the main festival in February, just before the height of the global pandemic situation. Now beyond this, there's another area of cooperation that we've been able to tee up despite the COVID-19 pandemic, and that is in the area of infrastructure. We have 3 big projects in the pipeline that I hope will be realized. Of course, it will not be realized in time before my departure, but I hope that we have planted the seeds and been able to water some of them, and hopefully it will grow during my successor's time and be able to reap the results of it. The 3 infrastructure projects are namely in the area of waste management, or rather waste management investment, waste to energy, as well as a logistic complex. The logistic complex was reported quite briefly in some of the papers in recent weeks. That is a mega project that, if realized, will be able to bring additional employment, skill transfer, digitalization. In fact, it will open the doors to the Singapore ecosystem to be brought in. And I think there will be a tremendous ripple effect on the rest of the economy. It will also build up, it will also bring up to a next level investor confidence in Cambodia. And the unprecedented challenges that COVID-19 pandemic has brought us. It is not something that any country wish for, but looking at Cambodia's situation, I think it's admirable that it has done a tremendous job in containing the situation, preventing any uncontrollable community spread. I remember reading a recent UN report about Cambodia's development, socio-economic development. It was published in August this year, and it complimented Cambodia on the remarkable success that the Cambodian government had undertaken in terms of the management and containment of the COVID-19 situation here. The thing about education system is that it has a long gestation period, especially when it comes to reform and changes. When I arrived in 2016, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports in Cambodia was already embarking on a series of reforms for the education. And if you look at the short development history of Cambodia, and I would benchmark the commencement of Cambodia's development from 1998, when the win-win amnesty proposed by Samdech Prime Minister Hun Sen took effect. And that was really the beginning of Cambodia's development journey. So from 1998 to the point in time when I arrived, that was 2016, that was only a short 18 years. So looking at Cambodia's tragic civil war, where a lot of intellectuals, teachers, artists, civil servants had perished during that period, it was difficult for the country, for the government, to be able to rebuild its education system. So what it has put in place, which is in a way a combination of what they had remaining from the public education, and they juxtapose that with private sector education in terms of international schools, private schools and so on. What the youth need to continue to look at will be those who can afford it will of course need to try to upgrade themselves as much as possible. And in that sense, it's not just about the private schools or international schools here. There are also many scholarships which Cambodia's development partners have made available. And so the youth should continue to aspire to upgrade themselves as much as possible. Those reforms that we have read about in the media and the briefings that we have had from MOEYS, Minister Hanchu Naron has done a tremendous job. In 2017, I had the good fortune of being able to link up MOEYS with our NIE International. NIE International is the international arm of the only teacher training institute that we have in Singapore. And they have an ongoing collaboration with MOEYS right now in terms of reforming the upper secondary education and in terms of teacher training. I'm hopeful that with this strong collaboration and the Singapore foundation and experience in education, we'll be able to have some sort of a positive experience through the sharing of experiences. 70% of Cambodia's population are under the age of 30 or 35, depending on which benchmark you take. So they have a long road ahead of them. And I would say that this group of youths in Cambodia has been born during a time where the Cambodian economy was already being built up or being rebuilt. Whatever opportunities that the youths have, something they should always bear in mind is about the peace and stability that's required for any society before they can grow. I would strongly advise the younger generation, not just in Cambodia, but even back in Singapore and many other countries, right? Don't be too swayed or attracted by the movies, the TV shows that they watch. It's all too easy to be attracted or to even be deceived by progress and development. But those are the end result of a long journey. But who is the one who helped carry the country through during that long journey? It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of toil. Look at the present day situation and circumstances. Treasure the peace and stability that you have, build on them, and make progress gradually. Don't be in too much of a hurry to want the end result overnight. Well, for those who think that their dream job is in the diplomatic service, I will advise them to first of all forget about all the images, all the narratives that they may have received or watched in movies and in TV shows. If your image about a diplomat is that they attend high society functions, diplomatic receptions, wine and dine, in fine dressing and so on, then that is not the kind of job that you should be applying for, that you should get yourself into. Because in the diplomatic service, it requires a lot of passion, and there's certainly a lot of hard work. It also requires a lot of sacrifice on the individual. Whether it's about family, it's about your personal freedom, it's about personal interest. At all times, you will need to be very clear-minded and be very committed about placing the country's interests, organizational interests above the self. And the other aspect about the diplomatic service is that you must also be fully committed in the immersion experience. If you are assigned to, on an overseas posting for example, if you are someone who would prefer to only socialize within the cohort of your colleagues, within the organization, that means the embassy, or within your own community, then diplomatic service may not be the right fit for you. You need to immerse yourself in the local culture, interact with the local community and beyond, as well as the expatriate community. The networking, appreciation of the local life, the art, the culture, the sights and sounds, the food, the lifestyle. Only then will you be effective and be a true messenger of your country. So that is my advice to those who aspire to be a diplomat. So in the first place, to be realistic, right? Diplomatic service is not like what you may witness on TV and the movies, and there's a lot of hard work that's required of the person as well.